Sometimes the most powerful formulas for life, for just figuring things out, aren't locked away in some complicated theory. Sometimes it's just a single sentence written thousands of years ago that can totally flip how you see the world. And that's what we're going to do in this explainer. We're going to deconstruct one of those sentences and find the incredible principle of priority that's hiding inside.
Here it is, Matthew 6:33. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Now, on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? But the structure here is, well, it's genius. You've got a command, you've got a priority, and you've got a promise, all packed into just a few words. So let's pull it apart and see how this thing actually ticks.
So let's be clear. At its core, this isn't just some nice, friendly advice. It's being laid out like a formula. It's a really powerful statement about cause and effect that hinges on just one thing: what you decide to put first.
And the best way to really get how this formula works is to split it right down the middle. See, there's a directive, that's the what you need to do part, and then there's a promise, the what happens next part. Let's see how these two pieces lock together, and we'll start with the directive.
All right, let's dive into that first half, the central directive. This is the input side of the equation, the part that's on us. It requires a real choice and some real effort. So what exactly is it that we're being asked to do here?
The whole thing kicks off with these two absolutely critical words: seek first. Now, what's so interesting here is that first doesn't just mean like the first thing on your to-do list for the day. It means first in importance. It's about setting a primary objective that everything else in your life just kind of organizes itself around.
Okay, so what is this primary objective? Well, the verse gives us a two-part answer. First, you've got the kingdom of God. And you can think of that as a whole new way of living, a completely different set of values. And then second, there's his righteousness, which is all about aligning who you are, your character, with real principles of justice and integrity. It's this two-pronged goal that has to be the main focus.
Okay, so if that's the cause, what's the effect? Let's flip over to the second half of the sentence now. We're shifting gears from the directive to the promise, from what you do to what happens because you did it.
And the key word here, it just jumps off the page. It's added. Just think about that for a second. It doesn't say, and then you'll earn all these things. It says they'll be added to you. This completely reframes all the necessities of life: food, clothes, a place to live. It reframes them as byproducts, not the main goal. They become a consequence of chasing something else entirely.
And you can really see that logic laid out clearly here. The path isn't a direct line to the necessities. The path is to the primary goal, the kingdom. The things are what you get along the way, almost like a side effect. It's a fundamental reordering of your objectives, where the very things most people spend their lives chasing are reframed as just a secondary result.
So we've looked at the directive and we've looked at the promise. Now it's time to put those two puzzle pieces back together, because when we do, they snap into place and create this really clear operational formula for life.
So the formula is basically this. It's a simple if-then statement. If you make the kingdom and righteousness your number one pursuit, then all the other necessities of life will fall into place. It's like a spiritual law of cause and effect, and it's all governed by one single variable: your priority.
Now, this is maybe the most crucial takeaway. This is not a transaction, okay? It's not some spiritual vending machine where you put in a coin of righteousness and out pops all your stuff. It's a principle of alignment. The whole idea is that when your ultimate focus, your life's compass, is pointed in the right direction, the rest of your life naturally starts to fall into order around it. It's about the compass, not the coin.
And that brings us to one last big question. This whole principle seems to suggest that how we seek is way more important than what we seek. So what if our priorities don't just guide our actions, but they actually shape the reality we experience? What if changing your primary goal could literally change everything else that follows? That's something to think about.